last day on Koh Samet. Look at me, I've gone native. Yeah, we're heading back into Pattaya today, and if I'm being honest, I'm not super excited about it. Pattaya is going through some struggles right now. Might make a whole video about it. I'll probably make a video about it. I'll probably make part of a video about it. There's already a bunch of them on YouTube, but I do think I have a few things to say. Welcome to slow season. Now the question is it slower this year than last year? Yeah, significantly. So what's going on? What's causing the slowdown? Well, in this video, we're gonna try to figure this out as best as we can. First, I'll tell you, I think a lot of the Russian families have left. I think a lot of the European families, speaking specifically about Pratamak and Jomtien, have decided not to come back this summer. I think there's also a big reduction in the amount of single guys coming into town this summer. And I'm for one, I know there's a lot of us that aren't going downtown as much as we used to, those of us that live here. I gotta do this quick, otherwise my mouth's gonna get me into trouble. One thing over the last 2 years that I've noticed is that the Thai government spends a lot of energy trying to promote Thailand to both Indians and Chinese. Nothing wrong with either of those people. This isn't a racist statement, but to me, it's kind of like trying to mix oil and water. Look, the Chinese dudes like to hang out with Chinese dudes. The Indian guys like to hang out with Indian guys. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you start to combine those two different nationalities on Walking Street in the evening, it could be a problem. When's the last time that you walked into a bar in Thailand and saw 3 Indian guys and 3 Chinese guys doing shots at the bar? It never happens, ever. But you can walk in, you can find a guy from Norway, you can find an Aussie, a guy from Ireland, you can find an American, and they're all sitting in there drinking left and right. The other part of it too is I do feel, and again, this is just opinion, I feel like they've kind of neglected the other tourists. I feel like they've neglected the tourist market from Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Great Britain, America, Canada, and for that matter, the rest of the world. It wasn't that long ago that the whole group of us used to go into Pattaya probably 2, maybe even 3 times a week. We'd go in, pick a bar, sit at the table, bring some girls over, buy lady drinks, sit, have a good conversation, get jacked up, and then find our way back home later in the evening. We almost never go down there anymore. And the reason for it is this lady drink hustle is just gotten out of control. Not only are the drinks more expensive, but they've raised the quotas. So now the girls are even more pushy about it. You know, it used to be you'd sit and you'd have a conversation and you'd be nice, so you'd buy them a couple drinks during the conversation. Now, every 3 minutes, they want another drink, bringing their friend over. Oh, will you buy friend drinks? She hasn't gotten any drinks bought. She's gonna be in trouble with boss. It just has a bad vibe to it anymore. And as a former bar owner, I'm looking at the managers and owners going, you're now encouraging your staff to hustle your customers for as many drinks as they can get out of them. No, it's just got a bad taste to it. It's not what it used to be. Now, you guys coming in out of town on a 10-day holiday, you're not going to notice it. You're coming in to party, you know what the score is, you're going to have fun. Just, keep an eye on the tab, and when it's time to say no, say no. I'm sorry, I'm not buying you any more lady drinks. Now, why has this become such a problem? Well, we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about the bar industry, customer service standards in town. I can't even say it with a straight face. And in general, I think that a lot of bars have had to kind of resort to relying on lady drink revenue to keep the doors open. So hang on, this might get kind of interesting. My perspective is a little bit different than some of the other guys on YouTube in that I worked in the food and beverage industry all the way through high school and college. I opened up new stores for a bunch of restaurant brands. I've owned bars down in the Caribbean. I live here in Pattaya. I'm downtown a lot. And there has been some major changes in this city, not just in the last 3 years, but from when I first started coming here as a tourist. So we're gonna wrap all of this up, and I'm gonna try to give you my perspective as to what's going on in town and why we are losing traction with the tourists. There's an old saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Meaning, anytime you get your name in the newspaper, at least your name's in the newspaper. I've always thought that saying was complete bullshit. And when it comes to Pattaya, it's been almost nothing but negative articles for the last year. Add in all the YouTube and TikTok nonsense, and you can understand why people are taking a second look before booking that plane ticket. The Thais are way too forgiving on the bad behavior. Guys get into trouble, they get a little talking to, and then they're allowed to carry on with their vacation. Put an end to that. Anybody that's causing trouble, it should be an instant one-way ride over to the airport, off you go. And by the way, you're not coming back for a couple of years. Put a block on their passport. If you can't behave yourself in this town, don't allow them to come back. What constitutes as bad behavior? Getting into a street fight out in the middle of one of the sois. Tearing apart a bar because you don't want to pay your bin, going into a convenience store and terrorizing the staff, the customers, and all of the merchandise. That's bad behavior. It's not tolerated anywhere else on the planet. You do that in most countries, you're going to find yourself paying a hefty fine and in a bunch of trouble. You can come into Pattaya and spend 20 days here and never see an incident like that. The reality of it is that stuff is actually fairly rare. The issue is when you're back in your home country going through your news feed, those are the incidents that get the traction. They get the most views, they get the most clicks, so they end up higher in the feeds. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because obviously it does, but it's just not as common as what it's portrayed on the internet. I just watched a TikTok video with this kid, probably 30 years old, saying, oh, Pattaya has always been like this. Dude, I've been coming here for 20 years. No, it has not always been like this. Pattaya has changed significantly, both in the negative publicity and the bars, go-go's, and gent clubs, which is what we're gonna talk about next. If you're a bar owner, you might wanna turn the video off because you are not gonna like what I have to say. We have some really good bars in Pattaya.
About curry, you
What do you think? Fit?
I never heard someone told me you ugly.
Oh, of course not. And it's easy to figure out which ones are good right now because they're the only ones that still have clientele in them. All the bad bars, completely empty. And that's not such a bad thing. Look, after the pandemic, Pattaya exploded. We had guys coming in from all over the planet. The streets were full. All of the bars were full. We had a bunch of new bar openings in town. It was a major surge. Now, unfortunately, a lot of those new bars that were opened by people who really had no business opening a bar. They're just not really interested in it, or they've never worked in the food and beverage industry and don't understand the concept of running a bar, which really isn't that difficult. I always break it down to three things. One, train your staff so that they're able to take a drink order and fulfill it. I mean, how many bars do you go into in Pattaya where you say, hey, can I have a vodka tonic or a vodka soda or a gin, and have them go, okay, let me repeat it again, repeat it again, and they're still giving you that look. That's not their fault, by the way, and it has nothing to do with a language barrier. It has to do with they've not been properly trained on this is vodka, this is gin, this is tequila. They know lady drink, and you can order a singa, and normally you're going to get a singa. Whether it's cold or not, that's a different story. Look at there. Got a gin and tonic, first order, no confusion, proper drink, except we're not in Pattaya. The second part is continued customer service during the rest of your stay in that establishment. Pattaya is a different beast, and there's a lot of things that are accepted as normal in this town that would never be accepted anywhere else, like this concept of putting a bell in the middle of the table. If you want another drink, you have to hit the bell to get their attention to get you another drink. Now, that would fly almost nowhere else, but here in Pattaya, it's kind of the norm. Again, that's a training issue. You go through your staff, hey, every 10 minutes, I want you to walk through the restaurant, look at their drinks. If it looks low, hey, may I get you another drink? It's not even just customer service. That's a really good way to increase your profitability at any bar or restaurant. The last thing you want is your customer sitting there with an empty drink. They could be consuming alcohol and spending money. And then the third component, which is the easiest, is customer retention. Now, this generally should fall on the manager or owner. Simply walking around the bar or restaurant once every hour or so, introducing yourself to the customers. Hi, what's your name? Where are you from? Nice to meet you. I'm such and such. Thank you for coming into our bar today. If you need anything, I'm right over there. Please come get you. That almost never happens. The bar manager is typically some drunk 30-year-old in the back hanging out with his buddies. Now, the reason, in my opinion, that all three of those things are generally ignored and accepted as being ignored in Pattaya is that we've got girls in the bar. If we didn't have girls in the bars, none of you guys would go back into any of those establishments. And that leads us right back to the lady drink hustle. Remember I told you Pattaya has changed. I remember there was a bar owned by this Australian guy. I think his name was Lou. About 15 years ago, you used to be able, you come into Pattaya, you'd walk into the bar, and he knew you by name. Boom. Danny, hey man, nice to see you again. How long are you here for? Oh, I'm here for a couple of weeks. I remember on one particular time, me and a bunch of friends were sitting in there. We had the girls over, we were buying them drinks, but they were starting to get a little bit loose with the drinks. Lou came over and he's like, hey, slow it down to them. I'm like, no, it's okay. They're having fun. He's like, no. Don't let them take advantage. Turned around and walked back. That would never happen today. That would never happen. It's the reverse. Most of the bars in town, well, maybe not most, a lot of the bars in town have reverted to using lady drink revenue as a means to keeping the doors open. It's the primary source of income. Like, it's not a bad deal for them. Selling a 200 baht little fruit juice, yeah, there's some good money in that. Again, my perspective of it is that I think a lot of customers walk out the door feeling a little bit taken advantage of. Again, you come over on a 3-week holiday, you don't care about any of this stuff. The only thing you care is there's a pretty girl sitting out in front. If you can get her to sit and talk to you, and then maybe one thing leads to the other, that's great. You're going to go home with a big smile on your face. I love Pattaya. Those of us that live here, or the guys that come in and spend 2 or 3 months at a time here, that's the audience that they're losing. My prediction is that we're going to see a lot of bars go out of business over the next 6 months, but that might not be a bad thing. Maybe getting some fresh blood and some new energy into town will help kind of rejuvenate the city. This isn't the death of Pattaya. What we might be witnessing is the rebirth of Pattaya, because let's face it, at times, things have just gotten a little tiresome. Also keep in mind, slow for Pattaya is still pretty busy for most other cities. We were downtown last night, and like I said, the well-run establishments were still busy. I don't know, we'll probably be back in December talking about how crazy it is here, and this is the busiest high season that Pattaya's ever had. But man, you still can't go wrong coming to Pattaya for a vacation. You can't. But it would be nice if the lady drink situation got sorted out a little bit. Wait, we've got to put our plug in. If you're a single guy out traveling this incredible planet, come over and join the guys at Whiskey and Rum International Men of Leisure. It's all guy stuff. You'll love it. Private chat groups, forums, and destination guides focused on all of these places that we like to visit.